Last year, on the morning of February 27th, I called my grandpa from my Brooklyn apartment, and he didn't pick up. At the time, my grandpa was living in Kharkiv, Ukraine, when the war started, and I didn't know what was going on. Maybe his phone died, maybe electricity went out, or the cellular network was destroyed. Maybe he was killed. I was desperate to get in touch with him. I posted an Instagram story to see if anyone was still in Kharkiv and could check in on him. Now, asking anyone for help was not something that I took lightly. I knew that merely by asking this, I was inviting someone to risk their life going outside. And yet, miraculously, I received a response from a woman named Anna. She said that someone she knew could stop by my grandfather's apartment. And through the graciousness and generosity of Anna's friend, I learned that my grandpa was alive. The power had gone out, and they left him a power bank. And later that evening, he finally returned my call.
When Mark told me what happened, I was relieved and astonished. An ordinary person on the other side of the world was able to reunite Mark's family amidst a war zone just by using Instagram. Now, Mark is my best friend. We met here at Cornell as first-year roommates. And in 2018, Mark brought me to Ukraine to meet his family and to see where he'd grown up. And among our many similarities, Mark and I have one that's unique between friends: the same birthday, the 25th of February, the day after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Needless to say, our birthday last year was anything but celebratory.
At the time, Dylan and I were finding our place as recent graduates and young professionals. I first learned that Kharkiv was invaded while plugged into a spreadsheet. I sacrificed one of my monitors to a breaking news channel that kept flashing images of familiar streets that were now dotted with Russian tanks. I sobbed in between Zoom calls, watching mothers clutching their children and elderly parents scrambling onto evacuation trains that were leaving Kharkiv, my home city. But the day I lost contact with my grandfather, I wanted to go there myself and bring him to safety. And experiencing that fear, all I wanted to do was end other people's suffering.
We both did. Raising awareness, yelling at the world, and donating money weren't enough. This war was personal, and we couldn't sit still. We realized that Mark knew the language, people in the region, and that we were both experienced travelers. Sure, we were ordinary people, but so was Anna. If she could do something, then we could too. So we devised a plan to go and help. We would fly over to Eastern Europe for 1 week, fundraise for on-the-spot needs, help as many people as possible, and then return to New York. Leaving for any more time implied something life-changing, and we had no plans of deviating from our lives in New York. So that same day, we packed some small bags and launched a crowdfunding page in the taxi on our way to the airport. And when we arrived in Poland, we quickly got to work helping refugees day and night. We housed mothers who fled with their children and sisters, filled refrigerators full of groceries, reunited owners with their pets, and provided a listening ear and moment of kindness to strangers. And when that week came to a close, the urge that drove us to help in Eastern Europe hadn't faded. Moreover, we fundraised more than we expected, enabling us to help at a far greater capacity. We felt responsible for those we met and those we were bound to meet the next day. How could we continue to help like this if we suddenly returned to New York?
And so our week-long trip evolved into over a year of humanitarian work. And today we live in Kyiv, Ukraine's proudly free capital. We focus on procuring critical supplies from the European Union and the United States and delivering them to the most critical conflict regions in Ukraine.
And we didn't do this alone. Were it not for the tremendous financial generosity of thousands of people around the world and our incredible network of partners, we would have never been able to help in Ukraine for as long as we have. Over the last year, we've provided life-saving chronic care medication to more than 3,000 patients across Ukraine, evacuated over 1,200 civilians from Russian-occupied territories, and equipped over 100 medical personnel with protective gear so they can safely serve on the front lines.
We've deployed nearly half a dozen ambulatory and evacuation vehicles in cities like Kharkiv, Mariupol, and Bakhmut. We've repaired residential flats in Kharkiv that have been badly damaged by Russian artillery and rocket fire, and now we're rebuilding a youth activity center for children whose school was destroyed and who have since been relegated to remote learning.
Now, this past year, Mark and I are grateful to have found two of arguably the most coveted things that we all search for in life: purpose and fulfillment. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the idea of filling your cup. Your cup symbolizes your most profound sense of self, your spirit. And throughout life, we either fill or empty our cups. We all want to fill our cup to the brim, as that represents our most heightened sense of personal fulfillment. And to do so, we discover, develop, engage, and tinker with our unique abilities and qualities, finding those things that we most authentically love in life. Now, Mark and I filled our cups through the act of service, which may come as no surprise to you. All of us have heard in one way or another that serving others and volunteering can inform one's sense of purpose in life and profoundly fulfill us. In fact, an ocean of scientific literature and countless anecdotes illustrate that we, as a social species, are in some ways biologically primed to serve. Studies show that service can help in alleviating depression, managing stress, promoting social integration, and teaching skills and values like patience, confidence, and resourcefulness. Other studies show that service can delay and reverse declining cognitive abilities and even reduce blood pressure. Now, while Mark and I actively served our communities growing up, we never considered humanitarianism as a career path while crafting our grand plans here at Cornell. However, throughout the last year, we've observed, reflected, and educated ourselves on the world of service with fresh eyes. And our experiences challenged the assumptions we had about service and the role it needs to play in all of our lives.
Firstly, we've learned that service is not for grown-ups. Last year, we were headed toward the largest military conflict in Europe since the Second World War. And honestly, the fear at the forefront of my mind was not about personal safety. I feared my growing count of unread emails and missing a networking event and veering from that grand plan that I'd been pursuing since graduation. I felt like I didn't have the right to go and help. Why did I feel comfortable saying that I couldn't come into work because I wasn't feeling well, but silly, naive even, saying that I couldn't come into work because there was a humanitarian catastrophe I must attend to?
Growing up, K through 12 and in college, service is made readily available in a clear, structured format. But as an adult, service work is far less accessible. It's often relegated to your corporate volunteer day, and the rest is left up to you. For many, service feels like a distraction. As responsible professionals, we can't allow for service to interfere with our decidedly more important priorities. And so service falls into that someday category of our to-do lists. Integrating service into your lifestyle is, at best, a nice to have, and at worst, even feels like a chore.
At Cornell, I spent years working towards an offer letter from an investment bank that would validate my efforts, provide me a sense of purpose, and pour into my cup of fulfillment. My parents brought me to the US as an infant, and growing up, I was keenly aware of my parents' tremendous sacrifices in immigrating. So I did everything I was supposed to on this proven path. And for months, after deciding to remain in Ukraine, I questioned if I'd squandered this carefully manicured resume. Were my parents disappointed? What did my friends think? What were my colleagues saying? Now, a year later, the profound fulfillment that we've discovered has since liberated me from this spiraling self-interrogation. But we've also realized that this fulfillment is elusive, because its driving force is not merely a sense of purpose, but one that's deeply personal. It requires a crystal clear understanding of the skills, values, and beliefs that are most important to you. It's intimately connected with your authentic self and the unique abilities that you have to serve others. This experience has cemented our belief that everyone is responsible for integrating service into their lifestyle, and that everyone can and deserves to experience this profound fulfillment. But it can only be found in serving others, and not through just any kind of service.
If you try to find lasting fulfillment through the current world of service, you won't succeed, because most volunteer and service opportunities that you encounter are generic. Bake sales, community 5Ks, the high school car wash, beach cleanups. You'll be proud of your participation in the moment and perhaps a few days afterward, but that fulfillment is momentary. It doesn't stick with you. Now, we're not saying to stop doing these activities or that they don't help the people and causes that you care about. But the current world of service neglects that critical ingredient that fosters lasting personal fulfillment. You. Current opportunities to serve others don't prioritize who you are, what you love to do, and the things you are uniquely skilled at. Unsurprisingly, most people have a laid-back involvement with humanitarian work, settling for one-off engagement and a lack of ownership. Service fulfills your college graduation requirements, decorates your internship applications, and for most adults, service gets boiled down to donating and raising awareness. Service is an important personal responsibility for a select few, but it's a biannual obligation for the rest of us. The world of service you know today doesn't present many opportunities that authentically align with the individual. And thus, they fail to deliver a lasting sense of purpose and fulfillment. However, our experiences in Ukraine revealed a new world of service, so to speak, that elevated our concept of serving others beyond raising awareness, donations, and service trips that fit neatly into your allotted vacation days.
This new world of service is correctly centered on you. It dovetails serving others with your unique abilities and passions. And by doing this, you can serve others in a way that does create a personal sense of purpose, that brings fulfillment. Over the past year, we've seen this from countless individuals. Igor, the restaurant owner in Lviv, who's repurposed his kitchen to feed families resettled from occupied territories. Maxim, the bus driver, running routes from Warsaw to Kiev. He's way faster than the mail service, and he lets mothers, wives, and sisters slip care packages onto his front seat.
Courtney, the foreign correspondent and media guru, who taught us how to communicate our message and prepared us for interviews.
Marianne, the fundraising expert, who answered every question we had and made us a priority in her week.
And Phil, the TikToker, who gifted us his platform and his video editing skills. He raised awareness for our organization and made our fundraiser for desperate civilians in Kharkiv a tremendous success.
These people used their knowledge and skill sets to serve others. Amidst their existing responsibilities and within their grand plan, these people approach service differently. They did it in a way and for a cause that was authentic to them. So, we're not telling you to go on the same journey that we did, but we are daring you to serve others through your own journey in a way that matters to you, that best fits you.
You can help others by leveraging the things that make you, you. Your skills, your knowledge, your careers, and your circumstances. Taking this approach isn't easy, but it's worth it. Take it from me. If I hadn't asked Mark to go and fly to help in Eastern Europe last March, the dare that started our journey, well, Mark's grandpa might not be sitting in this auditorium with all of you today.